Try to get it together. These videos were supposed to be up like a week ago. I don't even know when it's going up at this point. But, jeez. Welcome back to Movie Munchies. I'm Alexis. If you haven't been here before, I watch things and we eat them. I'm going to try not to be a bummer in this video. It's been a long week, but we'll be okay. Okay, here we go. I have to preface all of this just by explaining, first of all, how I came about deciding to do this recipe in particular. Because what had happened was, when I was watching Turning Red, I decided to Google traditional Chinese desserts. And when I did that, there was an article with a list of like 25 Chinese desserts. So I scrolled through that list until I was just trying to look for something that I could get like flavor inspiration from, something red, something that I could do, you know, for like a cake. You know what I mean? And what I found while I was scrolling was this raspberry Chinese snowflake cake. So when I googled that, Chinese snowflake cake, this is the only thing that came up. The sole recipe that came up. And because I didn't know what the actual name of, like, the original, the OG Chinese dessert, I didn't know what to Google in order to get other results. So I ended up just using this one, and it looked, you know, promising to me because it was red. They had a coconut thing going on, and I was like,
oh, you know, I can get the coconut to look like little, like, fur for the red panda.
Super creative and all that, right? But what happened was the recipe is flawed. Yeah. This particular recipe is flawed, and no disrespect to the person who wrote it. It's just, it seems like a version of the original, what it's supposed to be, was a Chinese coconut milk cake. So when I Google that populates more results, but I didn't realize that until after I had already done all of this. So the raspberry snowflake cake was the one that I ended up doing. And it's just, there are extra ingredients that don't necessarily need to be there. And then the way the directions are written out, I followed them the way that they were written. However, I was doing it all wrong. So it didn't ultimately, I mean, we'll get there, right? But it could have gone better, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so let's just get into it. So, this raspberry snowflake cake, it is raspberry flavored. However, it was specified in the recipe that any other fruit flavor could be used. I wanted to stick with raspberry because raspberries are red. We're doing Turning Red, yada yada. I need to, again, do another preface. This is not a cake the way you would traditionally think of a cake. It's more of like a Jell-O. Jell-O doesn't seem like the right word to say, but yeah. It's more of a Jell-O. There's no baking involved. You put it in the fridge and set it. So, it just, here's how that went. Started in the kitchen. Don't mind the light in the background. That's just me trying to get my life together with these videos. And I'm adjusting. I'm learning. I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get to a good place. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying different things until something eventually works. So let me know if it doesn't. So I did go with my initial idea of wanting to do this snowflake cake in the shape of a red panda. So what I did was I went on the Amazon and I ended up finding a panda mold. It's for like rice or what have you. Just for like doing little cute little bento boxes. You know what I mean? So I was like, I can work with that. I could take those bones and do make something with them. However, the problem was that the regular panda does not have a tail the way the red panda does, so I had to construct the tail part separately on my own with some foil. It was a relatively easy thing to do after a couple tries. So this recipe starts with raspberries, water, and specifically superfine sugar, which you can find that at the store, I'm pretty sure. I just blended it up in my little Ninja blender. But this was supposed to go on the stove until like the sugar dissolved and the raspberries dissolved as much as they could in there. And it started to boil. And this recipe called for gelatin sheets, which I have worked with once before. Ironically, only like a few days before I ended up doing this. So I had to get those soaking in some water. I also was listening to music while I was doing this. And I just have to say, the little Four Town Nobody Like You, is that what the song is? Has been stuck. It's stuck in my head, has been that way since I watched this movie. I'm not going to complain. It's catchy, you know? But it's just been lodged in there. And I have not been able to get it. I could not tell you how many times I have listened to this song. I know it back and forth by now. Both versions. Once that was good and boiling and everything was dissolved as much as it was going to be dissolved, the instructions were to add whole milk and double cream. What I'm going to call the OG, I don't even know what the OG recipe is for the coconut milk cake, snow cake, Chinese coconut milk snow cake. But what I'm calling OG recipe, it calls for coconut milk. This one called for whole milk and double cream or whipping cream. So that's what I used. And I had to get that boiling. And then the instructions said to pull it off of the heat and let it sit for like 10 minutes. So while it was doing that, I decided to go ahead and color some of it was supposed to be desiccated coconut. Desiccated coconut is like freshly shredded coconut that is not sweetened. This was just a package of shredded coconut that I found in the farmer's market. I didn't, but I decided to color some of it red, so I just put some red food coloring in there and mixed it for a while until the color came together. For the rest of that time, I spent moving things around in my fridge to try to find some room. So then I had to make a little slurry, this time with potato starch and water, and let that dissolve and mix together. The recipe said evenly. Hang on, let me look at it, because it was a weird way to phrase it. Mix potato starch and the additional 100 milliliters of water evenly and add it to the raspberry gelatin mixture. Yeah, well, I mixed that together, added the gelatin to the raspberry stuff, which the texture was so weird. It's just squishy and slimy and like just a strange thing. So I mixed that into the raspberry mixture until it dissolved, and then I went ahead and added the potato starch mixture. And here's what should have happened at this point that the directions did not accurately explain. I think there shouldn't have been gelatin in it at all. And what should have happened was it should have sat there with the heat on, mixing it and whisking it until it got thick. Because I watched a YouTube video of, and I don't even remember which one it is, sorry. But I watched a YouTube video of somebody making a Chinese coconut milk snow cake. And they didn't use gelatin sheets. They did use the potato starch. And they were mixing it until it was like thick, like several C's. That is not what happened here, and that's what should have happened here, because the potato starch did not get fully dissolved and cooked through. And so that caused issues later on down the line. Okay, so I didn't record this part. I thought I was, but turns out I wasn't. I was trying to think of a way to, and listen, this is embarrassing, okay? The whole pouring out of this liquid that I created was a mess of a process. Did not go great. And I don't know where my head was at this day. But sometimes you gotta try different things until something works and makes sense. And sometimes you just gotta fail, I suppose. So I was like,
well, I don't want, the Jell-O to stick into the mold when it has solidified. So I'll grease the mold, coat it with some of that superfine sugar, and then start by putting the red coconut down. So that when it's ready, it'll just pop out.
That's what was going on in my head. And I think if I was doing this recipe correctly, and the mixture was thick when I was putting it in, it would have worked. However, that's not the case. It was completely liquid, and it was warm, borderline hot liquid. So, of course, when I filled the mold, the coconut just got mixed in throughout the mixture, and the superfine sugar dissolved, because that's what sugar does. I don't know what I was thinking with that, but I did it. And ultimately, I was okay with it because it ended up turning it more red. In its own way, it kind of sort of worked out. In other ways, it didn't. And you can see me being indecisive, trying to decide whether or not I wanted to start over or just leave it the way it was, and I decided just to leave it the way it was. So with the rest of the mixture, it said to pour it into a parchment-lined baking tray. No, because it wasn't supposed to be liquid, and it got all up underneath the parchment paper, and I knew immediately as soon as I started pouring it was just a bad idea, so I poured it back into the pot. And ultimately, I just ended up doing that same thing of greasing a pan and then putting more superfine sugar in it, it was stupid. As soon as I did that, I knew it was just going to dissolve. There was no point. Ugh, so nervous about this. Oh god. Oh! Okay. I think I can work with this. Oh, I just realized, my hand. Yeah, I here's what happened. It's just a compression wrap. Because I've been doing, temp jobs recently. And that week I worked in a bakery, which was fun. It was. I enjoyed it. However, what had happened was, the majority of the time, they had me making cookies. And I had to scoop the cookies with a little ice cream scoop thing and put them on trays. So it was there was 300 cookies to one tray. And I can't tell you how many trays I did. So basically, thousands of cookies I was doing this motion for 4 days. So by the time I got to this day, which was Saturday, I woke up and was not able to close my hand. It hurt so bad. The things you don't think about when it comes to different kinds of jobs it's incredible. So, it finally came out of the mold at some point, and I refused to do any panicking about the way that it looked. But there was potential. There was a lot of potential. So I went ahead and just started to do the decorating. Now, regular pandas, especially with this mold, have the rounded ears, but our little Mei panda has more pointed ears. So I needed to kind of cut a little off the side of the ears to get that shape. And as I was doing that, the little coconut shreds were coming out, and it just... Ugh. It was a gory process. Kind of turned my stomach just a little bit. And it still does watching it, like, chills. It's disgusting looking. Then I had to try to get the tail out of the foil, and I was so sure it wasn't going to work out.
Oh my god.
It did break at the tip, but I had planned on cutting it anyway, so it ended up working out. It was fine. So it's not the most beautiful looking thing in the world, but we're not done yet. We're not done. We needed to add the coconut next. So I kept some of the coconut white because maybe his little ears and little cheeks and little nose and eyebrows are all white and stuff. So I just did my best to like section off those areas and then added the red coconut to the rest of it. And this was like a very long, tedious process of trying to get all of these chaotically thrown on pieces of coconut to conform to a pattern of sorts that would look like a red panda in the end, you know what I mean? And, you know, it took a lot of patience, but I was alright with it. So then what I decided to do was use just one of those little, like, icing things that you find in the grocery store. I got a couple of those to use for the facial features, like the eyes and the nose and stuff like that. And it actually turned out so cute.
Oh my god. Oh no, it's adorable.
So in my head, I was going to just do her face. But then I ended up looking at it and realizing you really couldn't see the distinction of, you know, her limbs on her body. So it just kind of looks like this weird shape with a thing sticking out of the side. You can't really tell what it's supposed to be. So I was trying to go back and forth about whether or not I should outline the whole thing. But I was so afraid that I would hate it, and so ruin everything that I had worked on this far. And I ended up going with that because it just needed to be done. I wasn't satisfied with the way that it looked just there. And, you know, turned out alright.
It's actually so cute.
It was again a tedious process, and I ended up going back and adding more coconut shavings in very specific places to get it to look okay. So I really couldn't just leave it the way that it was like that and just be like, yeah, I'm done, you know what I mean? I had to make the whole thing aesthetically pleasing the way that I set it up, displayed it, and yada yada. So I took some rectangles out of the rest of the Chinese snowflake cake, the Jell-O that I made, coated it in different colored coconut shreds and alternated it on the side. That was hard to do because it was really not all that solid. And then I just, you know, decorated the board that I put it on with red ribbon and some raspberries and the tears that I shed while watching that movie.
Whew. Okay. Time to try it. I don't know if I want to dig into the face or just go from one of these on the side. I don't want to mess her up yet. Let's go from one of these. It's a lot of coconut. That's on me, but actually, that is very pleasant. It's very coconutty flavor, but you get like the barest hint of raspberry in there. It was chilling for a while, but it would be like even better, like ice cold, you know? It tastes like, what does it taste like? I don't know. I want to try without the coconut. The flavor is really good. The texture is fascinating. It is a little bit, you can kind of taste the starch and kind of like coats your tongue. I probably could have stirred it longer and let the potato starch dissolve some more. Next time, I would add more raspberry. Interesting. I don't want to mess up my little panda. You're so cute. You know, adorable. Her face. Oh, little baby. Oh, so red inside. And this has coconut all throughout it, so. Nah. That wasn't a good bite. What did we learn? I didn't do it right. I'd be willing to try this again. I would still make it with the raspberries. But I would do like way more raspberries. And I would use whatever the original recipe is supposed to be without the gelatin, and I would definitely make sure the potato starch is all the way cooked out, and that I, did it right and correctly. Because what I ate was not what I ate, I don't think, was what I set out to eat. So. But the flavor wasn't bad. And I would be willing to try it again. And I had fun, I will say. It was just a good time experimenting and trying different things out in the kitchen and doing something that I had never done before. So there you go, moral of the story. We all win in the end, and we're all human beings just learning. But anyways, thanks for eating with me. Thanks for watching. Like the video, comment whatever you want to, even if it's just do me a favor, okay? If you're watching this video, here's what I want you to do. In the comments, tell me what your favorite movie is. There you go. We'll start it off simple. Start it off nice and simple and easy. What is your favorite movie? Just let me know. Because there's this thing called the algorithm. The more that people comment on my videos, the more that YouTube's like, oh,
people are interacting with this video. Maybe more people should see it.
So right now, nobody knows I exist. We're working on that. And it's still early. I'm not upset. Subscribe. Bye.